just want the other people on the panel, just want to introduce yourselves quickly so that we know who you are.
Hi, I'm Kai. I'm part of Lenovo. I'm right now leading the AP in media. All right, so I'm part of the global media COE. Yeah, and that's me.
Hey everyone, I'm Liam Hickey. I work at Spotify, based in Sydney, but look after the APAC or JAPAC region.
Hi everyone, I'm Sarah Potter. I look after media, digital and data for the APAC region.
Okay, great. Let's jump straight into questions. I want to talk about the fragmentation piece, particularly on the open internet, right? We have you have wall gardens that are scaled and easy to use in many cases for activation. Because I want to talk to the panel about this fragmentation issues. What could we do to solve it? What could we do to start easing the friction that makes it easier to sort of buy across the open internet? Kai, we'll start with you.
So I think with fragmentation in itself, it's very important for us to start thinking about how we stop just delivering impressions. All right, we start engineering what we will call impact. Right, taking a look at attention, what Sonal has mentioned, right, making sure that we actually get to the point where the audience is very receptive, right, and understanding what that actually means through business intelligence, through working with a lot of partners, trying to get all of the intelligence to put it back into the media that we are buying. Yeah.
As an organization, do you still think it's really difficult to kind of scale buys across across all these fragmented ecosystems? And, it's still a huge issue for Lenovo.
Oh yeah, absolutely. All right. So right now, our media plans are mainly just very omni-channel, right? So it's very difficult to understand where the audiences are, right? And trying to get all of that into just one consolidated buying path. Right, is something that we at Lenovo is trying to do very hard, right? One of the things that we are trying to do also is taking a look at supply path optimization, right? So working together with a partner, with data partners, experimenting on that, right? And trying to figure out what is the best way that gives us the best cost efficiency, that gives us the best intelligence, and also trying to be in front of the audience, in front of the customers that we have, right? At the most receptive that they are.
Sarah, do you want to take that question from the brand perspective as well?
Yeah, sure. I think the two things we could do as a brand and the two things within our immediate control would be to encourage more audience-first planning from the get-go. And that's really getting our agencies to work closely together to find the moments that we can have the most relevance with our audience. And as you said, Sonal, where we can add the most value as well. So that sounds simple, but there's a lot that goes into that. And I think when you crack it and you can show the added relevance from introducing new partners with the right message and then test and learn and have a measurement framework in place, I think it's really compelling. The second thing would be as a brand to help on that measurement piece. Everyone has their own measurement frameworks, but they don't always marry to every platform's measurement framework. So there's a lot of work that needs to go into connecting those dots there as well.
Do you have your own sort of bespoke measurement? I expect you do. You have your own modeling, your own sort of attribution model, and is that difficult to make work with all these disparate sort of channels?
Yes, we have our own measurement model. I think the thing that we take advantages of is things like brand lift studies, because they're a bit more immediate than an attribution model for us. And so then we try and have more of an always-on approach to brand lifts so that we can see how we're moving the needle there.
Liam, I'll come to you because obviously you've got a new product on the market, and we'll talk about it in a bit. Well, what's your observation around this? I mean, you guys are obviously big on audio and video, so how are you working with this idea of sort of making it easier to buy media?
And I think that's the key thing when we get to talk about our new product that we've launched with Trade Desk being one of our first DSPs, is the ease of accessing and also use it as an opportunity as well. What we are trying to do at the moment is to make it easier for agencies and buyers to activate audio. One of the big projects and the project that we have built out is how can we support the omni-channel strategy. We know from all the results that omnichannel works for buyers, from brand metrics, performance metrics, but but how do we make it easy for the agencies and brands to access that in an omni-channel planning and strategy, which is what we have done. So it's about how buyers can now access audio in an easy way, because that was always a friction before. It was difficult. If it's difficult, then it's going to be difficult for them to buy. So now we kind of remove that friction to ensure it is easier for them.
Sonal, do you want to take that as well?
Yeah, I've been here 18 years doing programmatic, and we're still talking about the same things.
18 years.
18 years in Singapore, but what has happened is that value chain has got bigger. And because that value chain has got bigger, it makes it very difficult, if I put myself in Sarah or Kai's shoes, to be able to say, okay, how do I declutter this? And how do I make sense of what I need to do for my marketing plan and my budget? And I think the only way we can really do that is we do need to look at measurement. That's got to be the backbone, because if we're all talking apples and pears and hairs, it's not going to make sense. But the second element is we all need to come together and maybe have a kumbaya moment in the ad tech ecosystems to be able to at least understand how do we think about interoperability within the various ways that we work. And I think, you know, the success we've seen with Spotify has really shown that. We're working with many other partners that is starting to show that, to make it less frictionless and to make it more valuable actually back to the marketeer.
Just switching gears a minute. So we talked about all gardens having scale and ease to buy, but excuse me, I have a little bit of a cold, I apologize. But they've become more automated, right? And with that automation, you've now got into a situation where, you know, there's less transparency running across specific inventory, right? Like, you know, you put the credit card in and you buy the inventory, it runs across a massive network, and the reporting isn't the best. That's to say it. But is that, and I mean, obviously that can lead to what you talked about, negative brand sentiment, like, and how much of an opportunity is it now for the open internet to kind of like build something similar with more transparency, right? If you think about there's nothing wrong with the automation piece, right? Creative, targeting, measurement, it's all good stuff. But if we could become similar from the open internet perspective with better transparency around quality content or quality inventory and even sort of pricing and all the rest of it, there is a huge opportunity. Who wants to take that? Sarah, you want to take that?
Yeah, but I think you answered it. I think absolutely there's the opportunity. We've seen that with the connections between Spotify, Trade Desk. All of those things level the playing field, and then it would be looking at like-for-like comparison and starting to test across both. But definitely higher quality inventory, managing the cost there as well. I think that's a really important piece. Like, how do you prove one over the other? How do you prove that attention is better on one platform versus the other? So, yeah, it is a challenge that all of the measurement is not common across both platforms. So if that was something the open internet could get behind and rally behind, on not just metrics, but moving the needle on brand, moving the needle on intent, and things that shift from a longer term point of view, I think that would be...
Do you think we need some kind of, I mean, I feel like we're going back in time, but do you think we have to have some kind of standardization across? I mean, all these channels are very different. You know, out of home's different, audio is different. But how do you standardize that? Do you have to have a common currency? Do you have to have something that glues all that together? I mean, my sense is that you guys have your own attribution models, and that kind of fits into that, and you've got the mixed MMM stuff. So is that the answer to this?
I think MMM has its value, definitely, right? But there isn't just one tool or one measurement framework that should be standalone and working on its own, right? So at Lenovo, we have worked towards making sure that we have a harmonization, right, in terms of all the KPIs through the funnel, right, and optimizing towards certain funnel stages, right, making sure that we have and identify across cross functions, right, across all the different business segments and business functions within Lenovo in itself, to aim for one key KPI. Let's just say if we are looking at brand, right, how do we make sure that the attention is there? If we are looking lower down the funnel, right, what is that key KPI that we are working towards, right? Yeah.
Liam, do you want to take that?
Yeah, I think just to add to that, I think standardization across each medium is key, but I think getting that across all mediums is very difficult. I think it's understanding the role that audio plays versus out of home versus YouTube. They all play a role in this, so it's more of where it fits in to that strategy or one or the other.
Sonal, do you want to jump in there?
Yeah, so I'm taking a slightly contrarian view only because we think about all the mediums that we have. Maybe it doesn't have to be standardization across the entire value chain, but it could be standardization by particular medium, because then you can actually understand within audio what works best. How do we then frame that? I just look at the panel here, and we've got Kai, who has obviously a B2C offering, right, which will have a different connotation with Sarah's brand Visa, which has a completely different connotation because Visa won't have direct consumers. They will go through different banks to get to their consumers. So I think you hit the nail on the head when you spoke about, do brands need to think about their own MTA? And maybe that's what needs to happen. I mean, a lot of brands in our region are going through some level of CRM integration. Maybe that next evolution is working with the value chain in ad tech to bring together what's the right MTA, the multi-touch attribution that needs to happen.
There's one word that you should take away from it today, and it's not AI, because you're going to hear a lot about AI. And God knows you will be, at the end of the day, you'll want to hear no more about AI. But I think the one word that we need to think about, especially in the open internet, is incrementality, right? The word has been around for a bit of time. If you spend all your money on 3 or 4 platforms, you're kind of missing out on most people, like, because we all don't live in those platforms. We consume CTV, we see out of home, we listen to podcasts. So the media landscape is so much bigger than just a few platforms. So I want to talk about this incrementality piece, like, because at the end of the day, you might end up spending lots of money on those platforms, but you get to a point where you just start retargeting your own users, right? So how important is that idea of incrementality in the open internet? Because it's a huge opportunity for brands to build beyond the walled gardens. Let's start with the brands in this one.
So when it comes to incrementality, right, definitely the walled gardens right now are the key place where all our all our customers are actually spending majority of their time. But for us, it's a matter of identifying what are the areas outside of the walled gardens which can complement our own activities that we are pushing through the walled gardens in itself, right? So identifying that to us, right? It's mainly more so consolidation. How do we make it easy for ourselves? I know you mentioned that, yeah, we're only investing in a few platforms, right? But I feel that these few platforms, right, the more consolidation that they have, makes it easier for marketers, especially, right, to be able to go to a single source, let's just say, right, to be able to do so many things, right, with each of them. And that's going to give us not only just efficiency, it helps us with the measurements that we are doing because we can control more of the campaigns that we are running, right? And also at the same time, giving us incrementality without having to spread our budgets too thinly across too many platforms. Yeah.
Sarah.
Yeah, I think you'd have to be clear about when you're reaching sufficiency within a platform in the first place. But I think incrementality goes beyond just reach and frequency and the incremental value that a partner can bring as well. So, for instance, IP, like you can't do that through Meta or another walled garden. So how do you bring values that I can't get from one platform that goes beyond just incremental reach?
On this incrementality, podcasts and audio have become a massive consumer go-to. Let's be honest, they are like everybody's listening to like 10 or 12 podcasts. I don't think anybody listens to radio anymore, even. So I want to talk about audio for a minute there, Liam, because you've launched your exchange and you're going big on audio, and we can bring Sonal into this as well. But let's talk about that as a channel, because that's a pretty exciting play for brands to be involved. I mean, like, think about the great jingles of our time. Like, I'm a big jingle guy. I mean, I have brand recall from shopping centres in Dublin that don't exist anymore. And I heard a radio ad 30, and I can still sing it to today, like, you know. I can sing it now, but you don't want to hear me singing at 9:30 in the morning. But, like, it basically goes to this: North side, north side, the great shopping centre. That does not exist anymore, but I remember it every day in the shower and sticking away. I could be mentally ill, but who knows? But let's just talk about audio for a minute. Liam, it's brilliant. I love radio.
That jingle when we spoke on Monday stayed in my head, so yeah, thanks.
The jingle jangle. Yeah, that's a great idea.
Look, I think it starts with the insights. I think we mentioned it earlier on where the consumers are. On Spotify, audio itself, I think across SEA, it's anywhere between 2.5 hours to 3 hours a day spent on audio, specifically on Spotify. So it's really about that change management to understand where the audiences are first. I think Sarah said it nicely as well. It's that audience approach first. And then that really decides where you plan your omni-channel strategy, really where the consumers are. So it's really starting with that insights. And like you said, podcasts aren't new, but very much part of all of our journey daily, whether that's news or a sport podcast, whatever that is. Podcast is absolutely helping that audio journey for us at the moment.
You've made Trade Desk made a big investment in audio. I mean, it's one of the things that Jeff talked about, but it's a pretty exciting channel to grow into.
Yeah, I think it is because that's where we're seeing the audience move to. You know, Spotify in particular, you'd have paid subscribers as well as non-paid. But when it comes to podcasts, you still served an ad. What I think we need to talk about is the frequency and reach play that Sarah sort of brought up. We want to make sure those ads are not intrusive and they don't lead to any type of negative sentiment. No brand wants that. So bringing the capabilities of Spotify alongside Trade Desk, where we work with all these different partners for data signals, actually stops that happening, and it brings the right type of consumer to the right experience with the right type of ad being exposed.
And
Yeah, I was just going to say, I think creative is such an important part there to the intrusive piece. If you do a really good audio ad, it won't feel intrusive. And if it's contextual and relevant, you'll still remember it in 10 years.
Everybody loves a good jingle, Sarah. Like
Everyone loves it.
I swear to God, it seems to be the neglected child. I love audio. It's brilliant.
And just with that on the creative, I think you teed up my next point here as well. Like, social absolutely plays a role in how we consume media. Audio is just very different. It's very moment-based. So you could be going for a run. So if your creative is right at that time, it's going to lend a lot more consumption or brand awareness or performance to that ad. So creative and moments play a really big role in audio, which I think is very different to how social plays a role in when you are buying or when we are consuming media.
Right. Excellent. One last question. We'll talk about the tech supply chain, because you mentioned this. Like, do we need to sort of make it more efficient? Right? Do you need to have half a dozen people in the supply chain? We do need to make that easier for brands to understand that, so the tech supply chain and inventory supply chain. So let's discuss that a little bit from a Lenovo point of view.
Yeah, because right now we do have a lot of tools. Right, and we do have a lot of tech that we are investing in. Right, it's a matter of identifying what is the tech that really is very important to the activities that we are running, right, and flattening that supply chain, right, to make sure that we have lesser people to engage with, and this also leads to better speed to market, right, less negotiations. You get to do a lot more when it comes to thinking about how you optimize, thinking about better campaigns that we're running, and also going back to the creative piece, right? How do you tell better stories, right? To that, if you don't spend too much time with too many tech and too many supply side partners, so just a matter of consolidating.
On the important stuff that actually drives the campaign performance.
Exactly, right? Focus on just the very important stuff and making sure that we measure afterwards, right, what those important stuff actually really give as outcomes.
Liam?
Yeah, I think as long as it's done right, you've got to have that efficiency, that transparency, and the ease, which are very important things to do. We've launched our own exchange that gives DSPs and buyers direct access to audio now. So we feel we have done it right because it means there's more supply, there's ease of accessing, and also more importantly, more control for the agencies as well. So as long as it is adding value and it's done in the right way, absolutely, but there's definitely a role within kind of supply path optimization across the board still as well.
We've got like 23 seconds. I'll give it to Sonal because obviously if there's one platform to use, it's the Trade Desk, obviously.
Thanks for the plug. No, I think, I agree. I think the more connected we are, maybe that word needs to change from focus to the more connective and interoperable we are together. This is not one fight. This is a fight for all of us. We're only going to thrive and survive if we actually bring innovation into the mix. And that means we've got to be connected and figure out how do we scale that for the marketeer. And I'll give it to last word to Sarah if there's anything you want to add to that.
Put me on the spot.
I know
Do
you'll
you want
deliver.
to sing a jingle, Sarah?
Can't think of one of those either.
I need to let Spotify more.
Run out
Spotify
of
did a bad
time.
job.
All good.
All right, on that note, we'll wrap up. Thank you very much, guys. Thank you for a great discussion, and thank you very much.